really do. You're a 21-year-old punk fucking kid. Grandpa's given you everything all your fucking life. You've never had a car payment or house payment. Everything you live in was given to you by Grandpa. You fucking don't know what it's like to work for a fucking living like I do, to bust my fucking ass and do what I do. And you know what, Shawn? You fucked me, and that's the way you got it. But you know what? Your grandpa's money will run out someday, and you'll have to feast for yourself. Get a fucking job, you piece of shit.
Welcome to Behind the Smoke Podcast, Barbecue War Stories. My name is Sean Walchef from Cali Comfort Barbecue, and we are above the butcher shop on a very special Thanksgiving episode with my man Derek Marceau from Valley Farm Market. It's game time, holiday week.
Dude, it's no joke. We got all our turkeys in, all natural, free range, organics, everything. We're up to our necks in turkeys, and got all the orders, our pumpkin pies, all of our julienne pies we got ordered. We're doing it, man. We actually smoked some turkeys. So
you smoked some turkeys? I thought you didn't hear our second podcast with Gene?
I don't listen to myself sometimes.
Do you remember talking to Gene about fucking up Thanksgiving?
Yeah, that's why I'm not doing it like that. We're not sending them out hot. We're gonna smoke them. They're cold and they can warm them up. That's the only way we're doing it. But,
so you've utilized the wisdom of the fuck up.
Yes, absolutely. So the only bad mistake is a mistake you don't learn from, right?
That's true. That's insanity.
Yeah. So we're just going through it. We have all our orders. Parking lot's gonna be full today and tomorrow. So I apologize for the people that are coming in. Bear with us. We're gonna work with it as much as we can, but come through, man.
Well, I know you're serious about that because I saw Randy Gill's smoker is no longer in the parking spaces, and for a man that spends his life parking cars, sometimes I don't even think I own a restaurant. I think I'm just, I should start a valet service.
Dude, it's a trip.
Always trying to find parking.
4 parking spots.
Good problems to have.
You wouldn't think that it was.
Oh no, that's valuable.
It's huge.
Well, it's valuable.
It's huge. So
valuable real estate.
And you probably noticed that not one employee car is in our parking lot. Everyone's across the street.
There you go. That's a new employee policy that you had to add.
Yeah. So
people don't get happy.
Talked to the gas station and they were not very excited, but I said, I'll make you guys some food, and I said, okay.
There you go. Yeah, it's amazing.
Bribery.
It's amazing what a little barbecue and beer can do.
Yeah, they're cool with it though. They understand it's only 2 days. So
yeah. Well, this is a business and marketing podcast. Everything we talk about's in the show notes. Corey, the producer, works
Thanks
very
to our
hard,
lovely friend Corey.
making sure that happens. So anything we talk about, don't worry if you're driving. Focus on the road and. Check out the show notes afterwards. All the links will be in there, all the social media handles. We do appreciate those that have interacted with us. It makes us feel like we're not just talking to nobody. There are people around the world that are actually listening to this shit.
Yeah.
That is very humbling. We do have a social shout out for Austin, who was out in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He reached out on the DM, let us know that he is very, very excited about listening to the podcast. He appreciates, the bullshit that's coming out of our mouths. I guess a little bit of the failures help him feel better about.
Well, it's cool. I mean, it's cool because that's pretty much what we were wanting to do, is just give people a little bit of insight on what goes on. And he's wanting to change his life and start something. And we were able to give him some advice, and we're still emailing with him all the time. So
yeah, he's at 616 bbq and fab. He fabricates his own smokers, and him and his wife, they've been smoking for 12 years, and they're fired up to start a catering business. And he just had questions, and he jumped off the cliff and gave me a call, and
it's a scary fucking cliff.
Yeah, well, that's our job is. I thought that our job was to help push people off that entrepreneurial cliff, but I realized more and more our job is to yell at people from the top of the cliff, because we're down there, with our bumps and bruises, and try to help people navigate the water below. But yeah, we're encouraging people to get involved, to stay curious.
Stay curious, and if you love it, go for it, man.
Yeah,
there's no better time than now.
And one of the coolest parts about this podcast for us is just the amazing guests that we've been able to have on. Derek and I are very humbled with people willing to spend their time to come above the butcher shop and come into our little circle and give people advice on things that went well in their career path and things that they fucked up on. I just pulled up the email. Our guest today, Chef Andres Hinojosa, and that is not Hinojosa for any of you gringos out there. He is here with us. Dinner with a Chef is his business. Him and I met back in 2013, dining out San Diego. Josh, who does an incredible job with his media magazine, he put together this event up at the Sheraton 2020 restaurant, got some pitmasters together, and Gene and I and Tommy, my brother, we went up there and we went to Chef Andres' class, and he was eager, humble, excited, fired up. I mean, he was pretty much, he had our blood type. So,
yeah, and that's good. I think we were kind of talking about it earlier. It's rare sometimes that you get these chefs that are as nice and open as Andres. So, Andres, thank you so much for coming out, man.
Thank you guys for having me.
Welcome to Behind the Smoke. So, give us a little bit of your backstory. Tell us about meeting Callie Comfort and Gene and myself and your first impressions back in 2013.
Well, when I first met you guys, I was actually taken back by how humble Gene and you were. You guys were just trying to get something going, and I remember you guys coming into the kitchen in the hotel, and you're like, oh my gosh, look at this kitchen.
You guys had it was a palace. It was like the Taj Mahal.
It was,
oh my God.
It was big, and I'm looking at
dream
you
kitchen.
I'm looking at you like, really?
You're like, really?
There's a lot of stuff here, but no, it was my first impression of you guys you guys were so respectful coming into the kitchen, and we had a lot of chefs and different foodies, I guess you would say, coming through for that event, and it was a really cool experience to see a lot of different styles, and you guys definitely brought barbecue. Was like, you guys you can tell were like pros. You weren't just some, kind of random, here's my steamed ribs and then finish them on the grill type of people. So no, it was, you guys made a good impression on me, and you guys were just so respectful coming in. So it was really an honor to have met you, and I wouldn't have known that our relationship would have grew to what it is today from that day. But it was, you guys were just all three of you, the whole team was great. So you guys were all just really cool.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that, we've learned along the way is there's so many people that you interact with in life, and, especially food-related businesses, when you're doing events, it's hard. They're high stress, high impact. I mean, the things that you have to do to prepare to put on an event, to make it successful, to put your best foot forward, to put your brand's best foot forward. It's very difficult to interact with the other people, leaders that are putting those things on. But if you take the time to make those connections, some of those connections become lifelong. And, that's something that we've noticed in the barbecue world. Pit masters are very willing to talk to each other. They're willing to talk to other amateurs. They're willing to share knowledge, and sharing knowledge and staying curious and staying humble. Those things are so interwoven into what we do, because I don't know shit. The more that we start podcasting, the more I realize, like, dude, I need to start studying more about digital marketing. I need to start studying more about public speaking, about communicating. I need to figure out broadcasting. I mean, there's so many things that we need to do better, and asking questions and learning from people is one of the things that drives Derek and I today.
Yeah, no, I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. It's humbling to talk to people, and get their perspective. And it's awesome that, for me, one of my biggest things is to try to get everyone to understand that it's not just about themselves, and it's about the whole movement that we want to create. And, everyone can get better. I can learn today. I'm going to learn today. As a matter of fact, I'm going to learn tomorrow. And if being open to that and being transparent with people is so important. When people have these attitudes where it's just about them and they don't want to share anything, well, you're gonna get passed up at some point. So creating this movement is what's so cool about what we do.
Sure.
And I'm just proud to be able to continue to do this and be on this journey. And I'm actually really fucking excited to talk today about some turkey stuff.
Oh God.
Some turkey meals.
The turkey meals. Yeah. Thanksgiving. I mean, we're publishing this, going to be coming out Thanksgiving Day. Special podcast for all of our listeners, whether you're listening to it on Thanksgiving Day or over the weekend or whenever you're slow cooking. We can't thank you guys enough for tuning in and engaging, sending out tweets, signing up for a Twitter account. If I've harassed you enough to sign up for a Twitter account, to be on LinkedIn, This is really, really special because, you know, we met Chef Andres at that event. And like we said, because of that connection, because of his willingness to take us behind the scenes, behind the smoke, show us around, talk to us about equipment, talk to us about staffing, talk to us about all the things that we're curious about, you know, because at a resort business, not only was that resort restaurant an operating restaurant, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you were also feeding the hotel. You had service that you were providing, right? As well as there was another hotel. Was that correct?
Yeah, well, actually, when we had different, obviously, you have the banquet department, we had the restaurant, in-room dining, we had our pool, and then they were building a conjoining hotel that was across the way. And so we would do, they had some rooms that were open already, but we were doing mostly room service. But it was a busy kitchen, to say, to say it the least way, but it was very busy.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that when you open up a business, a food service business, you start to realize that every single day is going to cost you money, and you need to find ways to add revenue streams. And most of the time, those revenue streams are going to be in the form of in-house banquets. In our case, we're a sports entertainment destination. We're going to find out anything that we can put on the TV. I mean, just recently we had a WWE event that was fucking incredible. I mean, we just had such an incredible turnout because of our partnership and our digital marketing push. But you just don't ever want to discriminate on how you can make money and how you can utilize in-house banquets, off-site catering, events like this Grilling with the Masters series, and figure out ways to get your food out, but also to utilize the labor that you have on staff, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think that one of the things that I think every entrepreneur should look at, or every business owner should look at, is when you're looking for different revenue streams, I mean, you're really just asking yourself, how can I add more value to people?
Sure.
Right. So
how can you fill a need?
How can you fill a need? Exactly. Yeah. So when you're talking about the WWE event, you're just basically putting that out there to say, hey, come enjoy Cali Comfort and what we have to offer.
Sure.
But watching an event that maybe somebody's not into football or somebody's not into another sport, but they're into wrestling. So it's just really adding value to people's lives and seeing what they want, and then just delivering that.
Sure. So talk to us about how long did you stay at Sheraton?
I was there for about a year and a half.
A year and a half, and then what did you do?
And then I stepped out on my own. I jumped off the cliff.
Why'd you jump off the cliff?
You know what? I felt it. In all honesty, I felt God was putting it in my heart for a few years before that, and to be honest with you, it was ridiculously horrible the way I did it. I mean, I had no plan. Other than a scribble scratch plan that you have on the back of some old menu or something.
Sure.
But you had
that's the seed.
That's the seed.
The seed starts.
Yeah,
it could be on a napkin.
It the seed. It felt like a kind of moldy seed, but it was a seed nonetheless. But no, when I stepped out on my own, I just I started doing farmers markets. Started doing food at farmers markets, doing small catering events.
And what did you do? Because a lot of people have contacted us. They want to get their catering business off the ground. They want to participate in farmers markets. One of the things that the first thing we talk about is a temporary food facility permit, which is the TFF,
Correct.
Which is something that, depending on where you're cooking food, I mean, every local jurisdiction has a health department. So going to your local health department and finding out what is required of you would be step one, right?
Correct.
Did you get the annual permit when you first
went
down
we got
there?
The annual permit. And then when we stepped out, so you go through all the legalities of it, of course, by, obviously business licenses in your city, but then also with the county food, the health department. So we had our permit, we bought our tent. There's a lot of kind of little ins and outs that you need to know.
Like a easy up tent?
Yeah, we had a
10 by 10.
If you're doing food, you have to have one that's fire retardant. So
what else? There's one more important piece. Sidewalls. Serving window.
Sidewalls.
We know too much about sidewalls. I wish we didn't know so much about sidewalls and serving windows.
I felt like they weren't I felt like they weren't pushing that as much on us, but it was probably in the case of some of the smaller farmers markets.
Well, sometimes they don't.
Right. Sometimes they don't. It just depends on enforcement. But if you're building out, what we know today is a lot different than what we knew back in 2013, and putting on events and requiring other restaurants, vendors to participate in these events. The health department is giving us much more strict requirements, which is good in one way. It's bad in the sense that it's more of imposing a fee as opposed to making it an educational process, which is something that Derek and I value. And, if they had as part of that fee a required class or something where they put on so that they could help somebody get into a farmer's market or start a catering business, like explain to them what it is, as opposed to just coming to the farmer's market and, threatening shutting down somebody's, all the work that you put in to prep for that market and, get ready to sell stuff. So.
No, yeah, absolutely. I would also, I'll add something that's a little off that, but when you're doing farmers markets, you have to really do and analyze what you're wanting to put out there, the product that you're doing, obviously, but one of the biggest things that I learned was it is very hard to be profitable per se doing just farmers markets. It's possible, but it's hard. But I would say that it was a good marketing tool. It was a good way to get your name out there, your brand out there.
For catering.
For catering, yeah.
You got to get your food in people's mouths.
Yeah. That's it, and you're looking at what you're, and so people can see your differentiators, to see why you're different than somebody else. And I think that was the biggest takeaway that I had for me. There was days where, just being brutally honest, I felt like I lost money.
Oh, absolutely. By far.
It was crazy.
Fuck.
It was
crazy.
there
were times where we went out and we didn't sell over $100.
But if you go into it with the mindset that you're trying to monetize on just the farmers markets, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah. Correct.
So
I agree.
you got to think about bigger picture, right? Like what's your end goal? That's when you're setting up and you said you just scribbled shit on the menu. Well, after a while, I'm sure you started understanding there's a bigger picture here. So you might not have gained money.
It's your educational investment.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you have to think of it like instead of paying college tuition, you're paying for that experience.
You're paying for that experience. You're
more.
getting all that stuff, and then you're also marketing. That's putting that food in someone's mouth. That like what Corbin did too, right? He's out there, and then he opens a brick and mortar afterwards. So if you're small picture and you're just thinking about, okay, I just want to make money and go to farmers markets, it's probably not going to happen. It's very, very hard to do that.
Yeah.
And, but the end goal, if you want to, go bigger and cater and do all that stuff, just know that it's just an investment you're making into your business.
No, absolutely. I think that you hit it right on the head. I found that out obviously the hard way, but at the same time, you're completely right. I learned so much in the process of what I did and how to interact with people and how to promote, your product, your brand, that it became second nature. It was a struggle. And so, in a lot of people's minds, they don't know until they're out there doing it, right? But I felt like in my path, when I stepped out and jumped off that cliff, it was rocky, obviously. You're I'm still going.
You didn't land into a bed of money.
No, I'm still going through.
DuckTales just diving all the coins.
I'm still going through.
I still haven't found that bed of coins yet.
Yeah.
But I just think that throughout the whole process, and to this day, every avenue that you go into with your endeavor, you learn something at every corner, and that is the real value into it. And the real value is really just knowing from doing. So I always tell people that
can't buy experience.
No, I always tell people that, if you don't do anything, there's 100% chance that you're not going to accomplish anything. But the people that are out there actually pushing hard to do something and they step out, even if they're doing it 20% right, they're still 20% ahead of anybody who's not doing it. So it's really just a matter of, getting out there, stepping out, and then not just figuring it out on your own, but at the same time, you're going to learn from your mistakes and your experiences.
Who did you tell about your dream? Because we had Nicole Matthews, who's from the Henley Company. She published a book called Permission, and she talks about authentic intention and talking about putting your dream out there, not just internalizing, hey, I want to do this. I want to make this, a business, but actually verbalizing it to somebody else. Who did you tell?
Well, that's kind of a hard question. It's hard when you feel like you don't have maybe a group of mentors or people around you. But in all honesty, when I started talking about it with my wife, she was really the deciding factor of saying, giving me, I felt like, the support. And then as I spoke to her, she kind of it's almost like she kind of got on board with me, and it kind of more expanded. The vision became bigger.
Oh, totally.
And then that's where I started to look at different resources and look at other people that were in the industry. My mentor, Chef Jason White in Chicago, I kind of called him and told him what I was kind of getting into, and as the business progressed. And he was just, words of encouragement, but at the same time, it felt good to kind of almost, like you're saying, kind of release that dream, and it makes it more real, and I think that's why, just even getting together with a group, or, why masterminds are so great for a lot of big, entrepreneurs, is because you're able to share those visions and dreams with other people and refine them and refine those thoughts. But it also re-inspires you to just keep going,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the big takeaway. I mean, you can't do anything alone, no matter. I absolutely hate the word self-made millionaire. I think it's just, to me, it's just false. I mean,
absolutely.
You have to have a customer to buy your product in the first place. So how's that self-made? But nobody's doing it alone. There's one person's ever done it.
Shawn and I are very, very fortunate, and I think now more than ever, and something that we just kind of came up on last week, we really, I think, kind of realized this week how fortunate we are to have the team we have around us. There's another endeavor that we might be doing, might not do it. We're looking at something right now, and the people that we have that we surround ourselves around are phenomenal. And the partnerships, people hate that word of a partnership. And I'm personally not a huge fan of forced partnerships. So, for me coming into my grocery store, the forced partnership was with my family, and those are hard. And I understand those. But when you can figure out how to capitalize with people, and the right partners are phenomenal. If you guys are like-minded, and the growth is 10 times more, like what we always say, I'm not going to be the best at everything. So if we can strategically find people that work well with us, we can take this way bigger than we would have ever even thought. And like you said, you didn't even realize you might have been a little, narrow-minded on what you were doing until you talked to your wife. Then it broadened it a little bit, right? And then all of a sudden you talk to someone else, you're like, okay, I can actually do this. And it gives you steam, and everyone feeds off each other. And it's a positive partnership instead of those forced partnerships.
Yeah, I think one of the best things in the world that we live in, there's a lot of scrutiny because of the internet, and there's so much negativity, but, a lot of people feel like they don't have mentors. I don't have somebody that I can lean on. But we live in a world where your mentors can be people like Gary Vaynerchuk and Tim Ferriss, and these people that have podcasts. They're putting out content on YouTube. They're putting out content in their blogs. Like, if there's somebody that's doing something that you love, you just need to search. Hey, Google. Hey, Siri. Hey, Alexa. Tell me more about, somebody that's into digital marketing. Guess what? You're going to get somebody that is showing you the passion, the drive, and they're niching it down to a point where it's on demand. We're so fortunate to be able to find the stuff that we love. And once you find somebody that's, speaking your language, it's so much better. And it's not interrupted too. You don't get this forced content that's interrupting your dream. You're like, I don't want that shit. That's one of the things Derek and I, we take very personally, is like, we want to make sure that, all of the people listening to this podcast, if they've subscribed and they listen every week, we're so grateful for them being on this journey. And we want them to share their journey with us. And we don't want to fucking interrupt that, and for us to find people like you that are sharing their passion, that are sharing with their wife, their passion. I mean, that's what Derek and I mean, if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't be sitting here podcasting right now. She has to support my vision.
Yeah. And she's a fucking rock star.
She is a fucking rock star.
I love Rosie, and, I'm the same way with my wife. We're expecting our third child, and she just fucking keeps grinding. She doesn't fucking stop. And she's not feeling the best, but she fucking holds it down, and she buys into what we're doing. And it's just a positive thing. Those are the partnerships that, we couldn't do what we do without them.
No. Sorry to interrupt, but Siri's trying to respond to my fucking question. Siri, you can just stop. We're gonna shut down Siri for now.
I'll take this opportunity to have a shout out to my wife, Danielle. She's she is my true business partner. She's amazing. We have 4 beautiful daughters, and she's a stay-at-home
4?
mom. Yeah,
Wow.
She's a stay-at-home mom, and she homeschools 3 of them. So she's
Good for you.
She's crazy. She I always say that she works harder than I do.
Beautiful crazy though, right?
Amazingly crazy.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
say
just
crazy.
beautiful.
We say crazy a lot, and I realize that we don't clarify that it's with endearment.
It's with
absolute
endearment. No,
endearment.
it's honestly
our circus is full of crazy.
If you can have,
we love our circus.
That's she might not know it, but she has that entrepreneurial spirit, right? I mean, she's taken the education in the girls' hands on her own, and she's just to have that is amazing, to allow me to be able to do over here what the vision for the family is, and vision for my business. So I mean, really, without her, I wouldn't be able to do any of it. So I mean, realistically, it's I completely, man, you guys, we're on the same wavelength. It's crazy. I mean, that's
type.
all.
You have the same blood type.
Yeah, that's all I do. I mean, I don't even hardly listen to music anymore. It's literally audible. I'm reading a book, listening to a book or listening to a podcast day in, day out, reading something, a physical book, and then listening to it, and just you become consumed with learning and educating yourself. And like you said, in this modern day, you might not have a mentor who's kind of taking you under their wing and showing you the ropes, but you have basically the best professionals and experts at your fingertips.
Sure.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's free.
Insane, and
it's fucking free. I mean,
it's free. And in the paid ones, they're like, forget about it. I mean,
Yeah.
they're so worth the investment. It's just insane. So no, we are on the same wavelength for that.
I mean, and who would have thought for me that I would have just been this huge advocate of education? Because for so long, I mean, I did whatever I could to get out of school. I mean, I went fucking surfing every day. I would leave school. I would never come. My teachers were like, Derek, show up one day a week in high school and just be a presence in here, and you're going to give you an A. And I'm like, heck yeah, you are. You know what I mean? So I didn't have to go to the classes all the time. But now, man, it's like, this thirst for knowledge, and I'm with you. I don't listen to music. We don't even have a cable at our house. Like, the kids will watch their Netflix. We only let them watch a little bit of TV, 30 minutes a day. And, but everything's just like, if I do have time to sit and watch something, it better be a documentary. I better be learning something, or I better be laughing my ass off. Because other than that, I don't have time to like watch a sitcom, or, it's just, I want to learn. I want to learn what's going on. I want to know. But that fingertip away stuff is just so enticing all the time.
Sure.
I'm always on it. I'm always, like I said, listening. I'm a huge fan of Joe Rogan. I mean, what he does, and man, it opens my mind all the time to like, man, I never would have fucking thought about it that way, ever. And now you take a step back, you start thinking like, man, it totally changes how you think. It's awesome.
No, it's fantastic. I think that I'm enjoying the journey more than I am whatever the end result will be.
That's the essence.
That is the essence.
When you remove yourself from, I'm selling a product, I'm selling a service, and you get to the why, like the why and the essence of why you do what you do and why you love, like why do you wake up in the morning? Why the fuck are you fired up? Like, I'm so fired up to come and talk to Derek about another event that we haven't even fucking, like, literally just this morning, they're like, hey, host this event at Cali Comfort. I'm like, fuck that, host it at Valley Farm Market. But like, that's what drives us. I mean, that's what drives us to, bring community together and bring other pitmasters together and chefs and people that are doing cool shit. And like, it doesn't even have to be in the food business for us. It's just about business and about life, and there are people out there that are doing amazing things, and we want to just hear their story, and hearing their story, part of it's the struggle. If you don't get to the struggle, that's where people won't jump off the cliff, and part of the struggle, which I remember clearly, was when you first jumped off the cliff and you came to us and you were like, hey, I'm doing Thanksgiving. And I was like, you're fucking nuts. Why are you doing Thanksgiving?
You have to bring that part up?
because of the failure. Because of the failure. And not that you failed, but I want you to talk about what you learned from that experience and where you are today with Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, that lays it up really nice for me. Well, I do remember I did these Thanksgiving, holiday meals kind of catering and kind of did them all delivered. So it was like a package deal that you can literally buy the entire Thanksgiving meal for a set price.
And you had a set menu.
And I had a set menu. So
it was per person menu, or was it all a cart?
It was basically a package. I believe it was for 12 people.
So it was only for 12 people.
Yeah.
But what if I had 8
It was a
people?
feast.
But I only want to feed 8 people.
Well, then you bought a whole package of 12, so you'd had leftovers
but I have 15.
for a few days.
I have 15 people, and I don't want to pay for 24.
You know what, Sean? This is actually why it wasn't the greatest idea in the world. Okay.
This is what pitmasters across the world find out. If you're doing, well, obviously not across the world for Thanksgiving, but in the nation, you realize that you start doing something special on a day that means so much to so many people, to be thankful, to spend time with family, to watch football like we do, and you don't want to fuck that up.
No.
You don't want to fuck that up. And, we talked about how much we screwed up multiple people's Thanksgiving, and it's a day where you have to learn how to say no, which is, you're at a time where you want to say yes. It's Thanksgiving. Like, I can do that for this order, right?
Yeah.
For this order, I can add a salad to this order just because it's one salad.
You know what?
And then,
I ended up getting. It was like down to what? I think I served 13 or 14 delivered meals that day, which is
across the county.
Across the county, literally from Escondido all the way to Imperial Beach.
You were stopping at the restaurant. We were closed, and we opened up the restaurant because we had to put our pulled pork and our pork butts and our brisket on for Friday.
It was insane, and then you had every single client wanted, it's like you were right, something different, a salad added or this or that. And of course, when your back is against the wall and you need to pay the bills, you say yes, and then you find that you're more frustrated, right? And you're more angry. And we still delivered it. We still delivered it, and we did it with a smile. But let's just say that was the one and only year that ever happened.
But you also had to be vulnerable. Just to pull that off, you had to be vulnerable and come to me and ask, "Hey, dude, I need help. I don't have enough fucking Cambros. Like, can you spare me some Cambros?" And because of that relationship, but because you were willing to ask, I'm like, "Fuck, dude, yeah. If you need Cambros, what? You need access to the kitchen, sure. But you have to develop those relationships. Not only that, but you have to eat your pride, and that's a tough thing.
I mean, without your kitchen, we wouldn't have got it done because like you were talking about the permit earlier, we didn't have our rental kitchen or our commissary kitchen after that because I was transitioning away from the farmers markets and things like that because I was clearly not making money and it was like, really bad, but I needed a kitchen. And so I was like, oh man, who am I going to call? And I reached out to you and man, you were awesome. So yes, thank you for that. That was probably the highlight of that day, was getting to spend a little bit of time with the team there at Cali Comfort, the people who were there. But no, it was a good learning. It was just a huge learning moment for me. And it's funny because at the end of it, even with all the craziness that happened and all the, I guess you would say, the negativity in it, but at the end of the day, I did get rave reviews about the people who had the food, and it was like, okay, at least there's some saving grace that some people were happy, and we made some people have really good Thanksgiving meals, but they don't realize that it wasn't just, oh yeah, they're just gonna make some turkeys and we're gonna do some side dishes. It was a lot. It was a lot deeper than that. So.
Can we dive into that menu and then you kind of just talk about like how you made some of this stuff, because I think people for this Thanksgiving podcast are gonna really want to know, like, hey, something new or something, one of your recipes that people can really, like, hey, dude, I'll fucking try that. That sounds amazing.
Did you do a green bean casserole?
I did do a green bean casserole.
That was so bomb.
Yeah.
We of course ordered from him to make his life a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Fuck, that was bomb.
Yeah, thanks.
And by ordering it was, we're letting you use your kitchen, so you're going to give us a Thanksgiving.
So we're just going to take one of those.
Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and take one of these birds and we'll see you later. No, actually, yeah, we actually published a Thanksgiving guide this year on our website that you're able to get there at dinnerwithachef.com. And it actually gives us just our top favorite recipes and gives you kind of a guide. And we actually timelined it out. So with all the craziness that I learned on that day, I actually took all that, put it onto a piece of paper, a nice little PDF guide for people that, literally it says at 8 hours before serve time, do this. 7 hours before serve time, do this. So that people feel like they're staying on track. I think the biggest thing, and I'll share some recipes. But I think the biggest thing for people to take away when they're trying to do, a Thanksgiving or pull off a big Thanksgiving dinner, they get this whole notion that it's like, oh my gosh, I mean, how am I going to be able to do this? And they get freaked out. And I think the biggest thing is to kind of keep your cool and not, I mean, really at the end of the day, it's just food. Us chefs have a saying, it's just food. Now, take that with a grain of salt, but there's, I guess you would say a couple of the personal recipes that we have on there that we love is our Sinful mashed potatoes. This is actually a recipe, believe it or not, that I somewhat learned and modified from home economics class when I was in high school. And it is pretty sinful. It's butter, cream cheese, sour cream, Yukon Gold potatoes. It's amazing. They're delicious. And then just really the turkey. People get so freaked out about cooking the turkey, and it's really not hard to cook.
Yeah.
I prefer it brined, but even if you don't brine it, just a proper technique of cooking it. So, I'll mention the tip that I give everybody is I actually do a turkey. When I do a turkey, I crank the oven up as high as it goes, 450, 500 degrees. And I season our bird, salt, pepper, whatever herbs, we like to use rosemary,
Are you brining
garlic.
your turkeys?
We prefer to brine them, but I mean, even if people feel a little intimidated on the brining, brining is pretty easy, but then the technique of actually cooking it. So what we'll do is we'll put in the turkey at high temp for 20 minutes, kind of brown the skin, and then you make a simple triangular shape out of aluminum foil. You cover the breast, put a digital thermometer that comes out of the oven into the bird's breast, in the center of it. And you basically cook it till it's 161. You turn down the oven at 350 degrees, cook it till 161, and pull it out and let it rest for an hour, and you have yourself a perfectly cooked bird. It's not hard at all. Make sure your bird is all the way defrosted.
Yes,
that's another
huge
one. So some people get so freaked out. They're like, but if I pull it out 3 or 4 days ahead of time, and I'm like, yes, pull it out 3 or 4.
Absolutely.
So that's another big tip. But like I said, we tried to make this guide kind of for, I don't want to say for, a beginner cook per se, but just somebody who feels overwhelmed of how to put it all together. Because I think a lot of people look at recipes, and there's great recipes on the internet, of course, like you were saying, we were talking about, there's a lot of different people that, you get free recipes, you can get free cookbooks. But the thing is we were seeing that nobody was really putting it together to help you feel like you can follow steps. So we even have a shopping guide that you can print out, take to the store. We have a timeline that's by day as well, by the day.
A shopping guide, that's cool.
So that's really cool.
That's awesome.
So,
I'm looking at it right now. That's really cool.
Yeah, so you can actually just print it out, and then we have our Tuesday timeline. So it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then it kind of gives you the steps so that you feel like you can be on track and feel like you're not stressed out. So we did this for, and there's a lot of people that do cook, and they cook a lot, and they still love this guide because it just gave them an ability to have something all compiled into one.
Well, we're a huge fan of checklists. They run our business. They run our catering. They do so many things that allow us to scale our business, to train other staff members how to do things properly. One of the things that I do admire about Dinner with a Chef is, you're focused on content, and you're focused on, putting out a blog and giving information so people can learn more about how to be a better chef, how to start their own chef business. You're also doing things on LinkedIn, publishing articles. You're utilizing all the different social platforms. Each social platform is different. Twitter is different than Instagram, is different than LinkedIn. And we highly encourage that each person, no matter what their barbecue brand is or what their chef brand is or what their business is, that they're on all those platforms. And it gets hard. It gets hard even for, someone like me I did it my whole, literally until last year, until I brought, what are we doing? We're doing DJ music now. But yeah, until I brought Corey on, and he's really helped, us create multiple different programs for each of those platforms. Because it's the world we live in, is back to what you said, the world that we live in, you can find mentors and you can find this information. And once you find it, you want more, and so now the toughest part is going to be, how do you blog more?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, if I can dive into that, we've been, we're not all, I don't think anybody's ever personally perfectly dialed into all the social media, but I think the biggest takeaway is always trying to just connect. The way that you can connect to people the most, right? To not only your customers, but to like-minded people or people that you want to learn from. So we're actually really excited about a project we're working on that we've learned that not only the people that are, being serviced by Dinner with a Chef as a personal chef company, we were looking at, I was getting a lot of phone calls from chefs that I worked for in the past and worked for me in the past, as well as worked with them, of how do I get into that business? How do I become a personal chef? And there's a few kind of training courses out there per se, but I was noticing that the niche is not necessarily geared towards people that are in the industry.
Sure.
And they're not really, like what we've talked about today, they're not really in the mindset of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, but we're actually launching the Personal Chef Academy in March of next year.
Good for you.
Yeah, and it's going to be a full-blown training program that it's going to be, mostly digital, but it's going to be packed full of, good content, of course, but it's basically going to be from the ground up how to start your business.
That's great.
And not only that, but I'm actually wanting it to be where there's gaps in it to where it's more personalized for people, because there's a lot of different chefs who have different, passions and niches for certain foods, or they want to do.
And the markets are different.
Exactly. So, somebody in Chicago is going to be very different from Houston, New York, or LA, right? So we're actually, it's actually tough to try to segment it and try to also be cohesive at the same time. But we're excited about it because we really see the need that there's a lot of chefs particularly that don't know how to, I guess you would say, go into business for themselves. And it's without, a lot of chefs want to own restaurants, right? They want to get into the restaurant business, but that takes a lot of capital, and there's a lot of things that you go through that. And I'm not saying that, not to do that, obviously, if that's your dream and that's your passion, but this could be a segue or a different avenue to say, there's another light out there other than the hotel, the restaurant, because there is a lot of chefs hurting. There's a lot of chefs hurting from corporate style restaurants and hotel chains where they're getting underpaid, undervalued, and overworked. Right. I mean, I've been there.
Well, if you get back down to the nuts and bolts, we live in a place where the heart of the house, the back of the house, is suffering. So suffering significantly. And, with minimum wage increasing to the way that it is, the people that are getting rewarded are the people that are tipped employees, at least here in California. Yeah. So the heart of the house, it makes it that much harder for us to find ways to take care of our people, our people that are making our food, and like having something like that and letting them know that there's other ways. I think that's really, really interesting. Yeah.
We have a small team. Of chefs, and just a few chefs that we have that, that are on my team right now. They didn't come from a personal chef background. They came from the industry, and then they've gotten a taste of it, and they're like, I don't ever want to go back, because you're able to be so creative. You're able to shop at Valley Farms and at the places you want to shop at to get the best product. And there is great restaurants in anywhere that you go that are, obviously that are seasonally based and getting high end, I guess you would say, products in, but that's not the norm. That's not the mainstream. The mainstream is, well, here's our account and you have to use it because that's what the hotel chain tells you to use. So you're not even able to be creative in the products that you use and be feeling like you're getting, cooking the food that you want to cook. So, personal chef, not only that, there's instant gratification, when you go to somebody's home and they love your food and they literally can go up to you and say, this is fantastic and this was amazing and I love what you did here, or how did you do this dish? Like, this was incredible. So it really is a way for the chef and the client to really, the client's having a different experience, and the chef, to be honest, is also having a different experience by kind of feeling like there's an instant gratification. So,
can you clarify something for me? In my pea brain mind, what makes you a chef? So you hear all these people, right? They come out and they're like, "Oh, I'm chef this." And it's like, did you go to any school? What makes somebody be able to say that? Is there any criteria you have to have, or can
that's great question, Derek. Seriously.
No, that's a brain buster question. I think because and I'll go out on a limb, and maybe I'm not going to get good responses on this answer, but with culinary schools nowadays, they're less focused on, I guess you would say, the technique and the mentality of the chef. And so you get a lot of students coming out of culinary school, and they're automatically assuming that they're a chef. And it's one of those things. This is one of those. Maybe it's like this. I mean, I can see that a little bit as well, like in the barbecue industry, right? I mean,
it's the same.
When do you say you're a pit master?
Sure.
Who gives
like
you
as
that
far
title?
as far as I'm concerned, the only pit master is Gene for us. Like nobody at Cali Comfort is.
Even if there's a guy next to him and knows how to do what he's doing, he's not going to be Gene. So for me, I think as a chef, it's kind of funny because it's not really a self-proclamation, but it's more of a title that you've earned throughout the course of your career. And so, but at the same time, and as you can see on my website, actually, as we're looking at it, I have the word chef in quotation marks because it's so widely used in so many different areas that it's almost like what makes me personally, what I think what makes a chef is the servitude and the hospitality behind what you want to do. And I think that you're actually aimed to please. That's my definition. That's what I tell my guys what we stand for, right? We're aiming to please. We're not aiming to necessarily please ourselves, right? Of course, we want to enjoy what we're doing and cook the food that, not knowing what we feel comfortable with, but what we love, our passion, right? But at the same time we're passionate about serving people.
Sure.
And I think that's what a true chef, does. I mean, you look at some of the big chefs in the industry and, the Emeril Lagasse's back in the day, the Gordon Ramsays, and as much as that looks like they come off very pompous, they're all very successful because they have very high standards for their customers.
Yes.
So they're still putting that customer first.
That's a great point.
So that's actually a really brain buster question, and I've actually been asked that not very many times, but it's hard to tippy toe around that one because. And I think
it's a hot button. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing in the barbecue industry. I mean, you can't throw around the word pitmaster and not disrespect people that have been doing it for decades. There's a documentary on Netflix called Jiro Dreams of Sushi. Actually, Ari Siegel from formerly of the Gulls, he turned me on to that, and I watched it. I mean, it's just incredible. This sushi restaurant, literally in a subway in Tokyo, and they talk about the process and making sure that these people, I mean, they're spending, I forgot what it was, but it was like 10 years just cooking rice.
Yeah.
Like
just washing rice.
Just washing rice.
They can't
just
even do,
washing
even
rice.
No, it's insane. I know.
But
it's crazy.
but that gets back to the true craft. The true craft and the true passion. And we don't live in a world where somebody, at least not in the United States, is willing to wash rice for 10 years before, they become the sushi chef. I want to do the sexy stuff. I want to be the one, in front of the customers. Well, guess what? It doesn't work that way. And when you get back to something like that, and if you have the process, part of the process is understanding that it's a long journey, that long journey. And, not everyone wants to be immediately, hey, I'm a chef. I'm out of culinary school. I'm a chef. Where's my restaurant? My restaurant's successful. I'm selling my restaurant.
There's people that don't even go to culinary school that are saying that they're chefs. There's people that which could be fine. I mean, some of them could be chefs. I don't know, but it's hard to, you hate to see that word thrown around so much because I think it really, it takes away from like what Shawn was saying from the people that have been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I've always hated titles,
exactly.
Like, who are you? What do you do? Are you the owner? Are you the CEO? Are you the president? It's like, I'm a head coach.
Yeah.
I'm coaching every single day. I'm trying to be better myself.
Yeah. And I've seen a lack of leadership in kitchens too, where because it's such a dictator type of situation.
Sure.
It actually doesn't encourage. This is what I'm learning in business, right? Business, there needs to be leadership. Leadership is not just being the boss, right? It's not managing things. You manage things. You don't manage people. You have to lead people to victory. And I think that in a lot of kitchens I worked at, literally, my mentor, Chef Jason White, was the only leader that I had. that was a true leader that wanted to push me. He would tell me all the time, you're going to be better than me. I'm going to teach you what I know. I'm going to push you. And there's not a lot of, I mean, it's funny when you look at, if anybody out there knows Thomas Keller, kind of a big name, right? In the industry.
Absolutely.
And he has so many chefs that come from him that open their own restaurant that end up being top 50 in the world.
Absolutely.
And does that make him look bad? No, because what he's done is he's not about, well, I don't want them to rise up, so they do their own thing. And they, some of them have restaurants down the street from him in Napa Valley that are doing great. I mean, they're almost competition now, but they don't see it as that, because the mentor or the person, that leader, is always going to be kind of just like with Gene and Pitmasters. You can be teaching somebody, and then maybe Gene passes on that title to somebody he's maybe mentored or trained through years. But I think that it's just like we were talking about, just paying the respects. And there is a lot of chefs as well that have, I guess you would say, the years, but they don't have the as well. I mean, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but they almost have lost the title of chef because they've given up, or their passion is burnt out, or, or they're just somewhere else. But so that's why I think that those titles are so finicky, and it's, it is kind of a, it's more title based.
Well, I mean, I think that it's a great point what you brought up, and Derek and I, we talk about it frequently. It's, in the hospitality business, we want to attract the top talent, but the prices that, the wages that we can pay, at having one unit location, aren't comparable to what you can get working a corporate job. But when you go and you work that corporate job, and then you're making, 6 figures, and you're doing things, you might not have the leadership that's actually going to allow you to touch and mold and be a part of the process, and to use your ideas, and, to be involved where it's, Derek and I, it's like, hey, that's your department. You run it. Like, you let us know, and you can actually grow. I mean, you're growing so much.
You can see the employees grow. I just had a conversation with one of my guys the other day, and I told him, look, I'm not trying to sit here and micromanage you. He asked me a question about how he want, something to face up at the store. He's doing some beer. And I said, look, man, what I'm going to let you do is I'm going to let you do it. And if it's something that I really don't like, I'll come back and we'll talk about it. But I want you to take ownership of this, and this is going to be yours. So how it makes sense to you is what I want you to do. And he did it, and he killed it,
Yeah.
And would I have done a little bit different? I actually would have, but it makes sense to him. He's proud of it. He's growing. He's understanding. And he might see that, okay, next time I'm going to do it this way, because, but it's his. He takes ownership, and guess what? He just grew 10 times more than he would have if I said, here's how you have to do it.
No, yeah, absolutely.
It's actually one step further, is because not only do you want him to embrace that process, but you want him to take ownership of that process to the point where he establishes a procedure so that he can train somebody else. So it's not reliant on him or her. Like that's where the true growth is going to happen, is where the company becomes better, because somebody that you've given power to say, hey, you're in charge of the catering department, help me make a checklist so that we don't have to be reliant on you. That's something that Bill Curtis,
absolutely,
did for us. And it was very difficult, and it's still difficult. And to this day, we're still improving that process, improving the ordering process online. How do we get into a prep list? How do we interact that prep list for a catering order with the entire barbecue restaurant, to make sure that all the quality remains the same? And, those things don't but you always have to have that drive. It's never finished. That's probably one of the toughest things for us learning in business is, no matter what policies, procedures, or things that we created, like, it's not done. The menu's never done.
No,
like, we have
never.
to continue evolving. And if you don't love that process, then it's probably not the right thing for you.
No, yeah, absolutely. And when you give ownership to your team, the biggest thing that I've seen is, for instance, I'll use just a simple example in the restaurant industry, right? If you have your lead cook or maybe even a sous chef come up with a daily special, if you've ever seen a lead cook do his own special, it might kind of shock him, like, okay, and you kind of guide him, right? So he's like, you know what, chef, I'm thinking scallops. This is a true story, right? So I remember one of my guys, and he was like, I don't know. Okay, what do you think? I'm like, well, we have some, fresh this, fresh that, what are you thinking? And as they started to progress into it, by the time that the finished product was done and we went and tasted it, and it looked great, tasted great, I'm like, it's great special. Scalp special is going on tonight. Do you think that cook is going to put out a ass scallop dish. No.
Absolutely
Why?
not.
Because it's partly his,
Yeah.
right? So taking ownership as well makes them part of the store, part of the business, part
They're
of
more
what you're
vested
doing.
than they've been.
They're more vested than they've ever been.
It even goes a step further. It's not only is he proud of that product, but it forces him to probably do things that he never had to do before. He probably always is relying on you as the chef to order enough scallops.
Yep.
Now he actually has to go and count how many scallops there are, because if we sell this many, and now it has to get programmed into the POS to make sure that, you know, the server doesn't order a scallop and tell the customer, hey, we have this amazing dish coming out, but oh, we're 86th.
Yeah.
You know, so now he's doing things and he's touching different parts of the business that he didn't have to do before.
Hopefully they were dry scallops. Nice.
Yeah.
Dry.
They were nice. They were very
Not
nice.
those injected scallops.
Yeah.
Dude.
No.
You get these scallops that like look like U10s.
Oh.
And they're injected. And then all of a sudden you cook them, they look like bay scallops. You know, just these
Really?
Gross,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
horrible.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No bueno.
No, we have our U10 fresh dry scallops here, and it's, I mean,
There's
so
a difference.
Good. They're
Absolutely.
so damn good. So good. All right.
So what kind of books do you recommend?
Well, for me, I guess maybe in my line of what I'm doing now, I mean, I'm literally obsessed. One of my favorite books is EntreLeadership by Dave Ramsey.
Awesome podcast also.
That's an awesome podcast. I mean,
Fantastic podcast.
I listen to that podcast
definitely.
religiously.
Definitely top 5 for me, for sure.
I mean, because it just gets you to dive in to see what an organization should be run like, and it really is inspiring. And I look at that, and I really look at that as kind of a standard for me of where I want my organization to be. Another book that I love is Intentional Living by John Maxwell. It's a really good book. It's just it kind of opens your mind up into just being intentional, like we were talking about, you know, intentionally not only with your customers and your clients, but also with your team and just anybody around you. I mean, you know, just sending out a text message sometimes to somebody to make their day just brings so much to somebody's life that you can't believe. And I personally just believe that everything starts and ends with leadership. I'm a nut about leadership. I want to be a student that's going to stop learning when I'm in my grave, you know, on leadership. And because I think that, you know, being a leader in the community, in your family, with your friends, it's not about being over them. It's really about trying to bring out the best in them and help them succeed.
Sure.
And I mean, I that's what I am loving as well about the heart of this podcast is, you know, you guys really trying to take the initiative of trying to help people just realize their own potential, and also just the mistakes we've all made from the different, you know, guests that you guys have had on here, including myself, and just having that be a kind of a guiding light for them to help them along their journey, right?
Sure.
It's not about just our journey here. It's really about everybody who's listening to this podcast and saying, you know what can I get out of this? How can I
Sure.
apply something like this to my life? What are those, you know, maybe do's and don'ts that they talked about that I can take into my own life? So I'm a nut on you know, just education, I guess you would say, reading and diving into that. And it's really blessed my life beyond belief. It's like I feel like every week I learn more and more, and then I'm like, I don't know enough.
Did I learn enough? I know.
And you just
I
keep
know.
pushing yourself into this limit. And it's been awesome.
Yeah, I think you know, one of the things for Derek and I is exactly what you said, is being able to share stories and being able to have people tag us in, you know, the photos where they're, you know, behind the smoke. You know, the whole premise is not the sexy photo at the end, because we live in a world where everything is, you know, people are trying to portray a life that they're not really living. And yes, you know, we talk about reverse engineering the actual menu item to the recipe. You know, as a restaurant, it's very important for us to have a sexy photo. When that food hits the customer's plate, guess what? They're going to take a picture and they're going to put it on Yelp. They're going to put it on Instagram. They're going to snap it. Like, those things are important. So I need to know how to make that all the way back to how am I ordering? What am I ordering? How's it going to get garnished? How's it going to get plated? What does the plateware look like? All that stuff is important. But it's also very, very important for us to be a part of that journey and show the shit that happens along the way. Because there's so many times where you order, you know, plates that are a certain color that you think are going to look great. And then guess what? The plates are too fucking heavy and they cost too much money. And you're like, dude, that was a bad deal. Like, now we need to find a better bag. You know, now we need to find a better way to package our catering. All those things have to always be at the top of mind. And you have to figure out, well, what is the most important thing that I'm doing today to help our business? And, you know, one of the craziest things is one of the most important things that we do today is this podcast. You know, it's sharing the struggle. And, you know, back to what we said with the mentors, the people that you have, your wife, you know, the other chefs, the reason why they're mentors is because they're going to be brutally honest and they're going to hold you accountable, you know, and those are the friends that you need. And those are the people you need in your inner circle because they're going to listen, they're going to encourage, but they're also going to say, hey, you're full of shit.
And,
you know,
realizing that you want to embrace the grind. You
Yeah.
have to be able to embrace it. I've talked to multiple people that are, you know, successful and they're at the end of their time here, you know, they're 70, 80. I think you just learn so much from our elders, and they will tell you the best times they had was in that grind when they thought it was the worst, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, like if what I wouldn't do to like get back in there and like do that again, it was just so much fun. You didn't even realize how much fun you were having. So just embrace today, embrace it, love it, own it. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. It's so cliche, right? But it's so true.
So true.
And it just embraced. I've always said, I find comfort in being uncomfortable. Like I push myself to get out of my comfort zone, be uncomfortable and do it. That's the only way I know. And like I said, I just find the comfort in that and I embrace it.
You couldn't have said it better than what I would have said it. I mean, that's really how I feel. And I think that if you're not screwing up, you're not living in certain aspects. And so, you know, you feel like you're alive when you're out there and you're grinding and you're doing it day by day. And I'm the same way. You know, I always look at, you know, what people think are failures. You know, I truly think that you don't fail unless you give up. Because because if you're doing something and you're like, well, you know, because I can look at my farmer's market and when I did that business or when I started that side of it, when I just went out on my own making, you know, I was making good money, you know, in a hotel as an executive chef. And when I stepped out with just,
and you
no
had the
wings,
title and the prestige, and it was like, you know, you had the fancy jacket and the sexy, you know, like the respect of the kitchen. And whenever people come by, you're the one that's putting on the grilling with Masters series.
Yep. And
then
all the glory.
You gave up all that.
Which sounds crazy, right? But then when you stepped out into it, I mean, really, you know, you get a slap of reality. But at the same time, I don't look at it as a failure because I wouldn't be where I am today without that experience. So, you know, every opportunity that you know, just a word of wisdom for anybody out there that's maybe feeling like they've tried something in the past or they're doing something right now and they feel like they're failing. You're not failing unless you give up. Your failure or what you're calling your failure is actually an opportunity for you to learn, grow, and just continue to push on. So, you know, that's really what, you know, what I'm all about. And, I'm just excited about what's in store for, you know, for us and for the projects we're working on and for my team to just continue to push forward and better ourselves and grind it out and just humble ourselves to people that have been there and done it and take what they know and then just expand into, to new territory. So,
yeah, I think, you know, for all of our listeners, we really appreciate when people reach out. And I think that's one of the things that is very difficult to do. And depending on who the person is, I mean, like we said, we're so fortunate to have just these epic people that are doing kick-ass things come on this podcast. And you'd think that Ernie Hahn wouldn't have time, or you'd think that, you know, Scott Kaplan wouldn't have time, or, you know, Gene Goycochea. I mean, I can't tell you how many questions Gene Goycochea has answered, you know, for me, for Derek,
I fucking wear his phone out all the time.
for amateur.
I was just at his house on Sunday.
I mean, but if you're not willing to ask, what's the worst that's going to happen? You know,
look at Austin, right?
Yeah,
Austin.
absolutely.
I mean, he was like, dude, I was fucking pacing back and forth, not knowing if I was going to send you guys an email and whatever. It's
he sends us a DM on Instagram, and like he was worried, you know, to send it out, and I was like, dude, thank God you did. You know, because what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm in a meeting and I can't get back to you. And, you know, I'm going to try my best to absolutely, if I can't answer the question, I'm going to send it to Derek. I'm going to send it to Corey. I'm going to send it to Gene. I mean, I have to rely on our team. I'm going to send it to you. I mean, now you're part of you've been part of the tribe, you know, and like that's how we grow as people, is being willing to reach out. being willing to interact, and whether that's an interaction on Twitter, whether that's on Instagram, whether that's on LinkedIn, we encourage all of our listeners to be on all those platforms and let us know you're listening to the podcast. We'll follow you. We'll follow your journey. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. I mean, we're in the most exciting time there is to be in business, where we can have people all over the world listening to a couple of fuckheads like me and Derek.
Here we are.
Bullshitting, and then having somebody that we respect, like you, come on this podcast and, give us a little insight into your world. Give us an insight on a day like Thanksgiving that means so much. I mean,
it's here.
We're gobble gobble.
Yeah.
It's here.
It's fucking here, man.
It's a big gobble gobble.
Fuck yeah.
It's exciting. My son and I and my wife, we get to enjoy the Charger game on Thanksgiving. We're gonna tone it back a little bit.
Where is it at?
It's in Dallas.
Really? You guys are gonna fly out?
No.
With the 97 others?
Alvarez is actually rolling. He broke 100. They're at 102 Bolt Pride in Jerry's World. Jerry's World.
I don't know if you can fit them all on the helicopter.
We should ask if Jerry Jones is willing to put 100 Bolt Pride people in his helicopter.
Right.
Run that by Jim Trotter, see if that's going to work out.
Yeah. No, but thank you so much for coming out. We definitely appreciate it.
Dinner with the Chef. That's the social handle. Reach out, ask questions, be curious, get involved, and jump off the cliff. The water's a little rocky, but it's warm.
It's a little bit warmer than you think. It's a little bit warmer than you think.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a true honor to be here with you guys. So this was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners. Please subscribe.
Send us your
review
turkey photos.
Oh yeah, I'd love some barbecue smoked turkey war stories.
Send them all to us, guys.
Yeah, we'd love to see it, and we'll catch you guys next week.